theme of lament through the song and through what Andy has been saying, I think, plays into what I want to say now, which is simply to introduce us to some work we're going to do in breakout rooms. I've been reading quite a lot over Breakdown Virus as a Summons to Faith, Brueggemann's little book, which I found extremely helpful, and I'm sure many of you will have come across this book. One of the chapters, chapter 3, which is entitled Until the Dancing Begins Again, where Brueggemann is reflecting on Jeremiah, has been particularly poignant here in this village, and I've been returning to it. If I just give you a couple of quotes from it, Brueggemann reflects on the way in Jeremiah 7:34, Jeremiah writes, "The corpses of the people will be food for the birds of the air and for the animals of the earth, and I will bring to an end the sound of mirth and gladness, the voice of the bride and bridegroom in the cities of Judah and in the cities of Jerusalem, for the land has become a waste." Then again in 16:9, Jeremiah notices that they're not even having funerals, let alone weddings. Both great and small shall die, and none shall lament them. You shall not go into the house of feasting to sit with them, to eat and to drink. And of course, over this past year, we've seen funeral numbers reduced in terms of who can attend the service, wedding numbers reduced and weddings not happening at all, baptisms, that other great time for people's rite of passage, if you look at it in one way, again, can't happen, can happen. We are in a very difficult situation in terms of marking the life changes that we have. And Brueggemann says that more than any other witness in the Old Testament, Jeremiah leans most deeply and honestly into the disaster of his people. And he takes the failure of social assemblies as a sign of the death of the city. When the city cannot assemble for rites of passage, it is evident that social life has failed. I think that, for me, has resonances with how we handle grief, both as individuals, as families, church families, and as local communities. And Brueggemann uses a very interesting example when he goes on to talk about the task of the church, which is to be rooted and grounded in the hesed of God in order to give hope. He gives the example of Pastor Martin Rinkhart, who wrote that great hymn, Now Thank We All Our God. He wrote that in the 30 Years' War. That was between 1618 and 1648, when there was not only war, but great pestilence in the land. And he wrote it as a table grace for his family, as he, as the pastor of that community, was presiding over many deaths, including his own wife. There's something there, I think, a big question for me about how we bring that hope, how we enable the community to see the hope in that hesed of God. Let's just look for the moment, thinking about the bereaved, of what we know has happened. As I've said, funerals are limited in number. People cannot sit together at funerals. People cannot visit their loved ones when they are sick. Very often, when they are close to death, they have to do it via video link. If people are shielding or have COVID, they cannot attend a funeral. If a family live far away, the partner dies, that family cannot all gather. I had a funeral last week when two sons of a very, very dear church member here live abroad, so they cannot be there. There's none of the human contact that hugging or offering a hand or a kiss, we all have to be socially distanced with masks. And what struck me are the number of funerals I've done where the widow or widower has stood alone at the graveside and then has had to go home alone because there's no wake, no time for sharing memories, no time for comfort. And all the time we are doing this in a context of fear, of anxiety, and for the bereaved, particularly those if they are living alone, of the practical things, like trying to get their shopping, prescriptions, see their doctor, cope when heating breaks down or a light bulb needs changing. And I think this is a question that I'm just posing. For me here, I sense that a lot of people have had to put their grief into a container and lock it tight because they have to just get on with day-to-day living and all that that entails at the moment. My own mother died on Good Friday this year, and I took the funeral for her 2 weeks later. And as a family, we have been, I think, shutting our grief in a box because we hadn't been able to meet, and we have needed to get on with all that's coming as the guidelines change constantly and we feel anxious and not knowing where we are. We haven't got a firm footing. Mourning alone is an experience which can take people into despair. Every day as I walk up to our church, I notice 2 widowers who have cared for their wives during life and who now each day, twice a day, go to the churchyard, tend the grave, hop into the church for a prayer if it's open, and then walk home. One of them said to me the other day, "I've never prayed before, but I do so need to be in this church right now." Another widow with lots of unresolved health issues because she's trying to cope with daily life alone. And for many people, of course, this Christmas will be the most difficult Christmas, either because it's the first Christmas or because they simply can't see people anyway. So I think my question is at the moment, as we walk alongside those who are grieving in a context of community, of national, of worldwide grief, how we can walk with them, how we can do our theological reflection ourselves in order that, as Andy said, when that lament happens, we are ready to be with our nation, our world, and also as we are with them to offer that real hope. We will all have different things that we normally do in ministry to the bereaved, and we will all have ways in which we are trying to shape and try things now. And in a minute in the breakout rooms, I'd like us to have an opportunity to simply share some of those things and see how we can offer one another some good practice. We may have a very good bereavement visiting scheme. It may or may not be happening at the moment. We may have opportunity to signpost people in a new way to bereavement schemes that are happening in our local vicinity, and counselling services that are happening and being set up now with new opportunities. I wonder what happened in your churches at Remembrance Tide and All Souls. As I said before, we're all from different traditions, so we will all have different theological understandings and different liturgical practices. Here we always have an All Souls Requiem, or a Requiem Eucharist, where people have the opportunity to light a candle and names are read. We actually have a requiem every month where the names of people whose anniversaries of death have come are read. And this year, of course, we had to work out how we could light candles in a COVID secure way. What a good job. Our curate is also a senior pharmacist at the hospital, chief pharmacist, and so does risk assessments, and so could help us in our risk assessment way of lighting a candle. We have a book of remembrance, which is on our altar here, and the pages are turned every day. There is no cost for having a name in that book. And because we are a village, and some of you will be in rural communities, every time there is a funeral, normally people all come from the village, neighbours, people who know people from the various clubs. I wonder what your plans are for Christmas this year. We're, for the first time, having a memory tree out in our churchyard, and we've sent round stars round the village so that people can write names. This is a new thing for us, but one that we are creatively trying to offer at this time. And what will happen when all those memorial services will start? I wonder if you in your different Christian communities have begun to think about that. When we are having individual memorial services amidst that grief of the nation. The making of memories, I think, is crucial, and it's something to which we need to pay attention. I was interested even last night on the world news, people talking about their memories of the first lockdown. And already we're beginning to make that community memory as well as our individual. What will the church memory be of this time? Elizabeth Liebert, our spiritual director, says, our memories give us the extraordinary power to recreate the past in the present, and they can be potent tools for our discernment going forward. Miroslav Volf says, we are not just shaped by our memories, we ourselves shape the memories that shape us. And those memories are so important for the shaping of our community, particularly in the rituals and rites that all communities will make, whatever their church tradition or whether they have no faith at all. There will always be rituals and rites that families, communities put together. What will be those and for the future, and how will we, as the church, work with people as we move forward together? I'm going to stop there because I want you to have opportunity in the breakout rooms, and I'd like you to do that in two ways. First, to simply share with one another and learn from one another how you are doing those things now in COVID. And then if you have time, and some of you will have already done this with me in a different context, to look at Samuel's incarnational ministry 8 elements of what it means to be with someone, what it means to be with a community, not doing to them, not working for them, but simply being with them. And if you would like to share any of those elements of being with, then please feel free to do so.